Okay, so we are told to find the vertex of a parabola that is written in standard form. The standard form of a parabola is ax squared plus bx plus c. But we know that this extra stuff here may not always be applicable if you only have a parabola that's like x squared something. This represents the shifting and contracting and other moves that are done by this parabola. Remember that the vertex of a parabola is simply the highest or lowest point. If we're opening up, it's going to be that lowest point there, or the minimum. If we're opening down, it's going to be the maximum point. So the vertex is also the point that splits the graph. The split of the graph is known as the axis of symmetry. And basically, if you think about it, if I take the y-axis and x-axis, and I put a parabola here, if I was to draw an imaginary line, what we can call axis, the axis of symmetry would be right here. So here's the y-axis. So basically, axis of symmetry, when you're talking about a parabola, is just where it breaks the graph up. To find the vertex of the parabola in standard form, we first find the x value by using the following formula. X equals negative b over 2a. Okay, so to do this, we first find the x value by plugging in x equals negative b over 2a. After that, we take the answer that we got from x and we go back to the original parabola formula, and wherever we see an x, we plug that value in that we found right up here. Okay, so in this example, we have x squared plus 2x plus 1. We want to identify who a and b is. Well, a, in this instant, is just going to be a 1, right? Because when there's nothing in front of a variable, there's still a 1 there. And we know that b is 2. So we take our formula of b is 2, so it'll be negative, this could be wrong here, but no, I don't think it is. So negative 2 divided by 2 times, a, did I do that right? Let's go on. I think I might have x equals negative b divided by 2a. Okay, so yeah, I messed this formula up here. It's x equals negative b divided by 2a. So we're actually going to skip past this one because that's wrong. Okay, so let's try this one. Y equals x squared plus 2x plus 5. And as you notice, we have the form here. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is going to be our a, right? 1. And this will be our b, played by 2. So to find the vertex, we first determine our a and b value. We found our a, and we found our b. We plug these values into the vertex formula. So the vertex formula is x equals negative 2b divided by 2a. Negative b divided by 2a. So since b is 2, this goes here, and then 2 times whatever a is, and a happens to be 1. So we're left with x equals negative 2 divided by 2, and x equals negative 1. So now that we have the value for x, we go back to the original formula up here, x squared plus 2x plus 5, and we plug the value that we found for x in. So we have negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 5 equals 4. So our y value is 4. Our x value is negative 1. As you see on the graph, we go out roughly negative 1, and then we go roughly up 4. And if somebody was to say, well, what's the minimum? Well, the minimum too would be negative 1, 4. And what's the axis of symmetry? That would be the line there too. Okay, so here we have one. It says, find the vertex of the parabola by using the vertex formula. Here's the general equation, remember, ax squared plus bx plus c. First we determine the a and b values. So a is going to be 1, right? Because although there's a variable, there's a 1 that's assumed in here. B is going to be 7, because he is in the b's place. And then 10, obviously, our constant. But since we're using the vertex formula, negative b divided by 2/8, we're not concerned with 10 until we have to simplify. Okay, so we're finding our x value. So we have x equals negative 7 divided by 2 times a, which is right here, or 1. And so we get x equals negative 7/2. Again, now we take that value, negative 7/2, and we plug it in. Wherever we see an x is where the negative 7/2 will go. So here we go. We have negative 7/2 squared plus 7 times negative 7/2 plus 10. And when we reduce this all the way down, we get y equals 9/2. So our max value for x we found was up here, and that's negative 7/2. And our y value is negative 9/2. And I converted it over to mixed fractions here, because sometimes when you're trying to graph and you get an improper fraction, it's nice just to look at it in terms of a mixed fraction. So this is roughly what it looks like here. Y equals x squared plus 7x plus 10. So this would be our value here, right down here. This obviously, this stuff right here applies to there. Notice this is our axis of symmetry, and this is also the minimum value. So the minimum value would be negative 7/2, negative 9/2. Okay, so here we're finding the vertex of a parabola by using the vertex formula, given the general equation of a parabola, ax squared plus bx plus c. And we know our first formula to find x is this. And actually this is our only formula, because if we find x, then we have y. So we want to identify who is a and who is b. In this case, we know a is just going to be 1, because when there's nothing in front of a variable, there's still an applied 1 there. B is going to be 9, because he's in the B spot. So now we take this information and we use x equals negative b divided by 2 times a. So negative b is 9, so negative b would be negative 9 divided by 2 times a. Here we know that a is just 1. Okay, now that we have negative 9/2, we plug in the solution of the answer that we found for x into the original equation of the parabola to find y. And this was the original parabola equation we were given, or function, excuse me. So we have negative 9 squared plus 9 times negative 9 here plus 20. When we simplify, we found out that our x value is negative 9/2, our y value is negative 1/4. So that is where our vertex is at. Also, if you were asked what is the minimum there, well, the minimum point would be right there, negative 9/2, negative 1/4, because that's where the vertex is at. It's also where the minimum is at, and the axis of symmetry. And by the way, the max, min, axis of symmetry, those are going to be topics we're going to cover more. Okay, here we go. So finding the vertex of a parabola by using the vertex formula, given a parabola in general form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So first we want to determine a and b. Well, in this case, a is going to be 1, right? Because whenever there's no value in front of a variable, it's still an implied 1. So, and then we know that b up here is going to play the role with negative 8. So here we have negative, because we have a negative there, negative 8, which is b, divided by 2 times a, and a happens to be 1. And when we simplify, we get x equals 4. Now that we know the x value for our vertex, we take that solution that we found, x equals 4, and we plug it in wherever we see an x in the original parabola function. So when we simplify here, we get y equals negative 3. So we have the vertex with x being 4 and y is negative 3. So again, this is where your vertex is at. And if you notice, if they were to ask what is the max or min, it would be 4, negative 3. And this is also the axis of symmetry, or the line, the imaginary line that splits the graph. Okay, so here we're asked to find the vertex of the parabola by using the vertex formula. And the vertex formula is basically this: x equals negative b divided by 2a. Again, they don't give you a they don't give you a formula for y. I mean, they do, but it's just, what you really need to know is, whatever you find for this, you're going to plug into the original function whenever you see an x to find your y value. Okay, so here we know that a is going to be 1. Remember, when there's nothing in front of a variable, there's always an implied 1. B is going to be negative 6. So we plug those values into this formula, x equals negative b divided by 2a. So we said b was negative 6, so it's going to be x equals negative 6 divided by 2 times 1. And here's our a value right here, the 1. When we simplify that, we have x equals 3. Now we plug in the solution or answer that we got from x for finding x, and that happens to be x equals 3. We plug this into the original function. Wherever I see an x, a negative 3 is going to go. So we have negative 3 squared minus, a 3 is going to go. Sorry about that. Because if I do negative, this becomes a positive 6, and this is a 3, so x is 3. So this right here actually screwed up, but since, x, a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is a positive. So although this is negative 3 here, it still comes out to be the right value here, which is 9. So 9 minus 6 times 3 plus 10. So when I simplify this right here, I get the vertex is 3, 1 right here. The max and min are going to be 3, 1, so this is the minimum. And the axis of symmetry is 3, 1. Okay, so just quick review. We know that if we want to use the vertex formula to find the vertex of a parabola, you're going to get this formula right here. X equals negative b divided by 2 times a. You use the vertex formula when you have a parabola written in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. You won't use it with other forms because other forms give you it'll show you the vertex but in a different way, and so this won't be needed. So to use the formula, our vertex formula, to find the vertex in this form, general form, we find the a value and the b value. We take those values and we plug them into the x formula is x equals negative b divided by 2a. B is going to play the role that comes from the b right here. A is going to play the role, and he's in front of the x squared. So you simplify that. Once you found your value for x, you take that value and you plug it back into the original formula. That'll give you your y value. Once you have your x and your y value, you have the point where the vertex is at. See you for the next episode.